It's been a little while since there was a new guitar model announced that legitimately got me excited. If anything, I've been a little bored looking at the offerings from all the different brands, especially for me as a lead player who likes the extended range thing but really needs a tremolo. And if you're gonna do the extended range thing and be a lead player, you're gonna want multiscale, and if you're gonna want multiscale, you're gonna want a tremolo, which means that you don't have a lot of options. Basically, your options were either drop some serious money on a smaller manufacturer or go buy a Strandberg. Being as Strandberg has inexplicably dropped their tremolo on the original line of guitars, and they equip all of their 7-string tremolo models with the exact same pickup, a Fishman Fluence Modern that I don't really like, I've been bored. Ernie Ball Music Man Guitars has recently released a new model, a Tosin Abasi signature series called the Kaizen. At least I think I'm pronouncing that right. And the absolute huge news that I'm very excited about, that Kiesel is now offering a hipshot multi-scale tremolo on their guitars. This is huge to me. I've been waiting for some other larger manufacturer to challenge Strandberg and help bring something else to the market to give everyone a little bit more options. So first, let's start with the new Tosin Abasi Ernie Ball Music Man signature guitar. This one is a little bit confusing if I'm honest. I mean, Tosin has his own line of signature series guitars, and for Ernie Ball Music Man to come out with like a Tosin Abasi model, I just feel like they're gonna be fighting each other for market share. So while I am surprised that they're pairing with him to bring out the new model, it does make sense. I mean, the guy is a total guitar icon. He's a guitar icon in a way that we probably haven't seen in decades, and I'm stoked for his continued success as an artist and just as a businessman. The Kaizen model comes only in a 7-string layout, and it has a whole boatload of interesting features that I'm like dying to get my hands on one and experience, but the big one that I'm gonna start with is that multi-scale custom Ernie Ball Music Man bridge. It's really exciting. The legit Ernie Ball Music Man stuff is all very, very well-made guitars, and they come with a hefty, I would argue, way overpriced price tag to come along with that. This is obviously disregarding the total trash that is Sterling by Music Man instruments. Legit Music Mans are really, really well-made guitars, so for them to come along with this multi-scale tremolo, I expect it to perform really, really admirably. On the surface, the tremolo looks like a really beefed up version of the Petrucci fully floating system, and it's interesting to me that they advertise it as having string dampeners as from the factory. I find it kind of amusing that a company is finally addressing the spring issue in a fully floating tremolo system. I mean, it's only been a problem throughout the entire existence of this type of bridge, so I'm very fascinated as to how they went about solving the spring resonant issue. I was unable to find any pictures of this string dampening system for the Kaizen bridge system, but I am kind of hopeful that this does make its way to other bridges throughout the Ernie Ball Music Man line. I also might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm really hoping that they decide to take this bridge design and put it on other models. Like a multi-scale tremolo-equipped Petrucci model would be really, really cool, because the Kaizen kind of has a weird body shape that I'm not really into. So time will tell. Hopefully it's not a Kaizen exclusive. Hopefully they decide to equip and come out with some other guitars throughout their lineup with this bridge multi-scale tremolo design would be awesome. The multi-scale scale length that they chose to go with on the Kaizen model is a little bit unique as well. It's a 24.75 to a 25.5 inch scale length. For comparison's sake, the fan on a Strandberg is 26.25 on the low end with a 25.5 inch scale length on the high end. 24.75 inch for the scale length on the high strings does feel a little short to me. It's not as common of a scale length, so if you do have experience with a similar scale length, I'd love to hear in the comments section down below what you think of it, how it performs, especially if your particular guitar happens to be a multi-scale instrument as well. Would love to hear about your experiences. This guitar also comes with some very bizarre looking tuners. They are Strandberg gearless locking tuners, and they look bizarre to me. I have absolutely no idea how these tuners function. I've never seen them equipped on another model. It doesn't mean that they aren't, but I'm just not familiar with them. It says that they're a straight pull gearless design, and I don't know how that works. I would love to hear again in the comments down below if you have experience with these tuners. They claim that they're lightweight, but they look big and bulky to me, so I'm a little curious about that, especially being it's an extended range instrument. I found that that extra weight on the top of the neck with the larger headstock and tuners can cause neck dive, so I'm curious as to how well this instrument is balanced. The neck also features something that Ernie Ball Music Man is calling an infinity radius neck. And to quote them directly off their website,
strategically positioned conical radius to increase comfort while maintaining enhanced visibility of the fretboard and uniquely positioned fret markers.
Honestly, that sounds like a whole bunch of marketing bullshit. But as compound radius necks have been among some of the most comfortable ones that I've tested here on my channel, I'm definitely very interested as to what the neck will feel like. I'm not sure how this is increasing the visibility of the neck somehow though, so I would love to get my hands on one and give this a try. Even the pickups that this guitar comes with are a bit odd and strange. This guitar kind of reminds me of when I first discovered Strandberg guitars and was reading through the website, and it just seemed like they did everything different almost just for the sake of doing it differently. You get a custom Music Man designed HT or heat treated humbucker in the bridge, and then in the neck a custom slanted mini humbucker that they claim is specifically designed to balance the tone of that bridge pickup. I'm very surprised that they're going with Music Man's own branded set of pickups for this guitar and not going third party, although I will admit I am extremely happy that they didn't just lazily toss in yet another pair of Fishman Fluence pickups, especially with like Strandberg and just like a number of other brands. It feels like that's just like the lazy option that these companies keep going with, so it's nice to see something new, nice to see some variety. But what is a heat-treated humbucker? Again, I've never heard of this. I was unable to find any other information, so yeah, leave a comment down below if either you've had a chance to play this or if you own one and you know something more about what heat-treated means. I just couldn't find any information about it. They just stated on the website. All of this pickup weirdness is wired up to a, at least in my opinion, disappointing 3-way switch. I personally would prefer a 5-way. I think you just get more tonal variations and it's more usable that way. And I also find that a little disappointing as the Petrucci models are already wired up to a 3-way switch, so it's kind of like, you know, you're not getting any new variety here in a way. And the price to go along with this is typical Ernie Ball Music Man. It is $4,100, which feels like too much to me. It's at least not as bad as the insane $6,000 plus that they're charging for the new Petrucci 8-string models, but it's still basically the price of 2 Kiesels or 2 Strandbergs, and I just think that's a little bit too much. So there it is, the new sort of space-aged model from Music Man Guitars, the Kaizen. It's probably the most space-aged guitar or weirdest guitar to come along since Strandberg, probably. I think overall the guitar looks super badass, and it's exciting to have a new option to consider in the multi-scale tremolo market. I think that's fantastic. It will be interesting to see if any of these advancements trickle their way down into like the Sterling by Music Man guitars, like a budget Kaizen model might be kind of cool. I'm secretly hoping that Sterling is going back to the drawing board with their guitars as is, because the hardware on those instruments are just absolute trash and so terrible. Kind of hoping that they're going to do a redesign and maybe some of this stuff that they're working on with the high-end models will trickle their way down into the budget instruments. Only time will tell. This is a big one. I lost my mind with excitement when I heard this, that Kiesel, my favorite USA-based guitar manufacturer, is now going to be offering a multi-scale tremolo model guitar. As longtime viewers of my channel will know, I love Kiesel guitars in that they still sell guitars that come at a reasonable price for a professional quality instrument. They're not like Ernie Ball Music Man, where they're basically charging $3 grand and up just to get in the door. You can get a stripped down Kiesel on a price that I think most people could save up and actually afford in a reasonable amount of time. Now that they're offering this multi-scale tremolo option, I definitely think they're going to challenge Strandberg for some amount of market share, and I think that's exciting and good for all of us as the consumer. This option only costs an extra $100, which I think is solid right off the bat. Again, Kiesel is offering a good value to the consumer, especially as they are a custom shop. I mean, you can spec out the guitar to exactly what you want. Unfortunately, the multi-scale option is extra though, so before you even are able to check the tremolo, you do have to check the multi-scale option, which adds $200 to the build price of the guitar. So in reality, all in, to get that multi-scale tremolo equipped guitar, it's gonna cost you $300 over the starting price. So, messing around on the Kiesel builder, I was able to spec out a Vader or an Osiris with the multi-scale tremolo for a little bit under $2,000. Being as a Strandberg prog will cost you around $2,400, that's a pretty decent savings, and I think definitely should make it a candidate if you're in the market for a multi-scale tremolo equipped guitar. That also means you've saved a couple bucks, so if you want to spec it out with a couple other cosmetic goodies, you can. Obviously on the Kiesel builder, you can spec out a guitar into Ernie Ball Music Man prices pretty easily, but again, for the purpose of my video and my point always is that you can at least get in the door with something that is vaguely affordable. There's two potential downsides here though with going with the Kiesel. The first is that they tend not to hold their value quite as well on the secondhand market because Kiesel is basically just a custom shop. Why bother buying a used one if you could just go on the Kiesel site and spec out the exact instrument that you want? Is basically the problem. The other potential negative is I have seen some people say negative things about the hipshot tremolo models. I personally, unfortunately, don't have any experience with the hipshot tremolo models. All the hipshot hardware that I have are always the fixed bridge versions of it, and the fixed bridge stuff is great, so I would like to think that the tremolos aren't junk, but I have heard some people complain and say that they don't stay in tune as well. So I would love to hear from people down below in the comments, if you have experience with the hipshot regular non-multi-scale tremolos, how do they perform? And hopefully that'll give us an idea of how well these multi-scale tremolos will perform. And lastly, the other negative is that you can only get this multi-scale tremolo on a headless guitar. They do not offer it on their standard guitars that have a headstock. It's gotta be on the headless models to get the multi-scale trem. It's always exciting when a new product comes along, especially when it's one that kind of feels like it's purpose-built and aimed at a target that you're definitely a member of. So I'm very excited about both of these models of guitars and really hopeful to get my hands on one to test, try out, and hopefully bring a review here on the channel sometime in the future. Obviously, I'm sure there are many people that don't care about the multi-scale thing, so this is not a big deal to them as it is to me, and I get it if that's the way that you feel. In my opinion, it's always exciting when companies innovate and challenge each other, because ultimately, who wins in a situation like that is the consumer or us as the player. I mean, that is the one thing that capitalism is without a doubt good at doing. It will drive innovation, and hopefully, especially with regards to Strandberg, it's going to force them to kind of up their game. And that one thing is definitely sure. The future is bright for these sort of space-aged, shreddy guitars. I think we've got a lot to look forward to as these companies compete against each other.